Welcome back to BLOCKTV. I'm Ron Friedman, and it's time for Cryptonomics, where we look at the relation between the crypto market and the larger financial and political landscape. And when it comes to both, China and its financial policy is the 10 million ton gorilla, and it looks like this ape has a taste for blockchain and crypto. According to multiple reports, a senior official at China's central bank announced at the China Finance 40 Group meeting over the weekend that the country will soon roll out its central bank digital currency. Major news if and when it happens. Joining me in the studio now to help put that announcement into context and its place amid the larger narrative of the trade war with the US and China's overall national goals, BLOCKTV's analyst, Asher Westrop-Evans. Asher, fantastic to have you here.
Happy to be here.
Very, very big announcement, but it might not be as clear-cut as the announcement would have it. Help me break this down. So what was said and what's your take on it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we had Mu Chengchun, a deputy chief of the Payment and Settlement Division for the People's Bank of China. So quite a senior official coming out and saying that a central bank digital currency, CBDC as it's known for short, prototype exists and has been in the works since 2014. Last 5 years that the People's Bank of China has supposedly been working on this sort of central currency. It supposedly exists, and as Mu points out, he says that the research group that's in charge of this, the Digital Money Research Group, has already fully adopted the blockchain architecture for the currency. They are ready to go, they're ready and raring to go. Didn't detail explicitly, or at least in our reporting of what we heard, didn't deal explicitly in what it looks like, how it's going to be structured explicitly. One thing he did say of important note, that it will be a two-tiered system. Of course, the People's Bank of China being the upper level, which will have a sort of non-blockchainy sort of feel to it. There'll be a more traditional banking sector feel to it. And then the commercial banks, which will serve as the second level. So of course, China not giving up control yet, not open, permissionless, decentralized system just yet. But we got a little more on that. We spoke now recently just with Flex Yang, the CEO of Babel Finance, a Hong Kong-based crypto financing service, who broke down what he thinks is the sort of goal that's being put forward by the Chinese government here and how they plan to lay out this structure. We can take a listen to what he said.
Right, that we have seen lots of developments in central bank, PBOC's digital currency statements recently. But I think we should look at this development in a digital way, not in a crypto way. As PBOC also mentioned that the technology roadmap is not decided yet, so maybe it will not be even using the so-called cryptocurrency technology. Yes, technically ready doesn't mean economical or political ready. Since cryptocurrency or digital currency is quite controversial in China, so yes, we will need to see the development of this news. But we can see that PBOC is speeding up its process in adopting a new digital currency.
So he really hit it on the head there, didn't he? So he's like, well, yes, currency is not financial freedom, it's not political freedom. Right. This is still China we're dealing with. So kind of putting an interesting take on that, taking everything with a bit of a grain of salt.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, sort of paring back some of the, the more enthusiastic responses we've seen out of the cryptoverse of people saying, here's China adopting cryptos. No, not necessarily. More, they're digitizing their economy as it already exists, still keeping themselves firmly in control, and perhaps utilizing some elements and methodologies that have come out of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, which still is a point to be lauded. As you said, this talking about the world's second largest economy here. If they're getting involved, then it's a positive step.
Right, it's going to get people more familiar with the assets and how to use it and how to...
Precisely. A more digitized economy as a whole will get people more on board with the digital space, but at the same time, we shouldn't be going too far ahead of ourselves and assuming that this means full wholesale acceptance of cryptocurrencies.
Sure. Now, not only that, I mean, so all this comes in the middle of we can call it, people have called it a perfect storm, but conflicts or some people are already calling it a currency war between the US and China, and then that's going to have a spillover effect probably over the rest of the world economy. What does a coin like this do in that type of battle?
Well, it's interesting to think about, as you say, because there does seem to be a currency war going on as part of a larger trade war that's happening, and we've seen And last week, the Chinese government devaluing the yuan even further to record low levels, causing a lot of consternation in the US, a lot of backlash. Markets have certainly been riled, to say the least. So it has been a very wild and tumultuous time. And to throw this in the mix, it's interesting. Some would see this as a response by the Chinese government to take action to secure their monetary policy and secure their independence from the US dollar and from insulate themselves from a wider sort of international monetary system. However, not all agree. And again, Flex Yang had an interesting point to make about what he thinks driving this decision and its timing. We can take a listen.
Yes, I think the Libra is actually a key driver of the US and China's regulators to be serious about cryptocurrency. And yes, this will be a trigger point rather than the trade war.
Interesting. So he's taking it back into the cryptocurrency world, saying it's not trade war. It's Libra that's pushing the Chinese government to go ahead with this national cryptocurrency. Very fascinating. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to say the least. It's not necessarily what I was seeing in my first gut reaction, but I do understand perhaps where he's coming from. The thing with the Chinese government we always got to remember, they look in terms of 5-year, 10-year, 50-year plans. They're looking out into the future in a way that most governments in the West tend to look towards the next election cycle. They look into the longer term, and perhaps they've looked ahead, used their crystal ball, and seen Libra as the more alarming concern in that longest term sense. And while other governments might have moved on and the news cycle might have moved on, the Chinese government might be saying, hey, this is still something we've got to prioritize and something we've got to think about. The trade war will come and go in one way or another, but this is something we've got to do to shore up our monetary policy in the long term. On the flip side of that, I can't see the trade war not being relevant to this.
Sure. But maybe, I mean, maybe like he said, all right, so, we know that they've been working on it for the last 5 years, but this is what gave it that extra push and made it go public, and kind of we got this announcement by the bank. That definitely makes sense, especially since we know China is not going to let Facebook or Libra, Facebook's Libra, enter China. So it does add up.
Yeah, it's allowing them to stay relevant, to stay on top of the latest trends in terms of financial technology and digital technology, but similarly own the projects themselves and not be outdone by Western counterparts, perhaps.
Well, I'm sure we're going to be revisiting this story often. This is Monday morning. U.S. markets open in a few minutes. It's going to be interesting to see how they're reacting, continuing devaluation of the yuan and other trade war developments. And we'll be here to report on it. Asher, thanks very much for being here.
Pleasure.
Those of you at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.